The confrontation between the Gods Knights and the Straw Hat crew is growing closer and closer, but before these two sides can go all out against one another, there are still giant children that need saving, and very, very soon.
So, let's waste little time and jump right into One Piece, chapter 1145, starting with a special made color spread.
This color spread is not really telling a story of any kind. It is more kind of crafted for the specific purpose of the anime returning after its long hiatus, as you see all the Straw Hat crew members surrounded by TVs of Luffy and Gear 5.
Yeah, and as you pointed out to me, they also have the exact time that the anime was released, which is just a cool little detail.
But as for Yamato's cover series, we do see what looks like it could actually be a step closer to the possibility of Ulti and Page 1 joining Yamato's side as she travels throughout Wano, as now Ulti does have a confirmation that she saved her brother's life.
Yeah, and that's all that really matters to her, is the survival of her brother. It's all about family for her, and yeah, we really could see her change sides and join the right people.
Which would be funny considering they were introduced like, I don't care about that
we
brat
hate
at
her.
all.
Yeah, like, she's the worst, I don't want to deal with her, to then being her first, like, vassals.
Yeah, it would be a really cool transformation. But let's look into the chapter now, starting with the title. And in terms of titles, this one is quite a mouthful.
Yeah, the Blaze and Branch Ace Forest number 2.
And with that very explicit title, it's hard to leave any interpretation for what is going to go down in this chapter. So let's jump into this inferno to see what happens with the children.
Yeah, and before we get to the actual flames themselves, we do still get a bunch of action right off the bat. But instead of fighting with all the nightmare monsters, we actually see Goldberg and his shield Nash facing off with a charging dinosaur with some really ferocious teeth.
And he manages to stand his ground. The dinosaur does reach out to bite, but manages to get these teeth stuck in the shield. And with this beast restrained, it's only just a sitting duck for what is actually kind of a rare Sanji-Zoro combo in this moment.
Yeah, and they took it right down. And now that it's been slayed, Goldberg reveals to them that this is a Grockysaurus, which is quite the delicacy when cooked with sake.
And Sanji does bring up, he's like, yeah, but we don't have sake, so how am I going to cook this? But very conveniently, there just happens to be a hunting cabin nearby with some aromatic herbs that does the job just fine. But you keep in mind, Goldberg is the cook of the ship as well, so he would have some kind of, like, understanding.
Yeah, and I'm sure those two, him and Sanji together, they're going to be able to figure out how to still make it taste good.
But before we can leave this scene, Sanji does not let the fact that his shield has a face go unnoticed, as he points it out, and he's like, okay, so is this a devil fruit, or is this something else? And he acknowledges that Nash is actually a homie, something that was imbued with a soul by Big Mom, just like Zeus.
Yeah, and then they blow his mind right back, like, oh, he actually works for Na'vi now, we have him. Goldberg's like, what do you mean? How does that happen?
But as these two have completed their hunt, we jump back to the base of the tree, where Loki has finally revealed the truth of who his assailants were, being the Gods Knights. And Loki, despite admitting that he was approached and attacked by the Gods Knights, is still adamant that he refuted them entirely and wants nothing to do with them. And if he did, he would have already been the king of everybody.
Yeah, he's like, these guys were powerful, I could have taken them. I just wish that I've had the opportunity sooner. Really, just, he sticks through it. He does believe he is the sun god.
And to our knowledge, I think this is Luffy's first time hearing of the Gods Knights.
Yeah, he hasn't heard about him before, and you can see, he's like, what do you mean, world government knights?
Yeah, he's like, I mean, I fought world government agents, but what are the knights? Like, the only knights he's known is, like, the Sky Knight and Gonfall, so I'm sure this is really weird to him. But as he's pondering the thought of the Gods Knights, the hunting group does return with their kill, and the short-lived combination of Zoro and Sanji getting along reverts right back to its usual taunting and making fun of each other.
Yeah, Zoro, I took it down. Sanji's like, yeah, little flying head of broccoli through the air. It was crazy.
And now that they have come together again with the firewood from the group that stayed and the meat that they hunted down, They begin cooking it, and Luffy is so eager to help Loki that he just runs up with this hot piece of cooked meat and shoves it directly in his face.
Yeah, classic Luffy, even when he's trying to do right, just keeps screwing up. And I mean, Loki's like, what are you doing, you idiot? Like, at first, Luffy doesn't care and just keeps trying to tell him, you need to eat. And Loki does finally take a bite, but then it's like, hey, it's really hard for me to eat when I'm laying down like this. Can I at least sit up?
And Luffy, again, trying to be helpful at first, is like, oh no, are you choking on your food? Here, man, you can wash it down with something. I think we had, we have this hot soup over here. And immediately just comes running back with this hot soup, very clearly aware it's hot as he's yelling, hot, 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 as he runs with it in his hands.
Spills it all over him. Dude, Luffy, just, what a goon. And now he's got even, they say it, like, explicitly, now he's got even more burns. Like, you're hurting him even more.
Loki is so tired of this kid who already tried to punch him and is now burning him. But as Luffy does start to feel bad, Gerd just washes away any sense of guilt as she gives him the cheekiest thumbs up and wink.
Yeah, and Sanji's trying to tell him off, but then Gerd's over here being like, nope, actually, I'm cool with it.
No, good job, Luffy. Sanji's shook at the fact that they could hate this giant so much, but Zoro doesn't really care to pay him any attention, and is actually kind of starting to grill Loki now that they have him restrained again.
Yeah, he's like, I bet he was actually lying. He wasn't going to tell Luffy anything. But Loki's actually like, no, I was going to hold my end of the bargain up.
He does kind of retain the fact that he's honorable. That's like a big thing, it seems like, for him. That whenever someone questions his character in a certain way, which is not what you'd expect from such like a savage person they make him out to be.
Yeah, I know. At first he does also kind of be like, well, you haven't really freed me from my chains yet. But then it's like, you really want to hear about red hair, huh?
He also sympathizes with it. He definitely relates to that feeling and even admits that. He's like, yeah, I guess I can understand. You had a pirate that really inspired you when you were a kid. And Haradin is just kind of sitting back and watching this go down for the time being. But even Luffy can recognize that this is much more than just common sympathy. It seems like he can really relate to this concept and asks him, is this like something you went through too?
Yeah, and it's honestly very similar to how Luffy's interaction with Shanks went, except maybe just a little more aggressive, where we get a flashback where he was just a kid asking another pirate to please take him with him on his trip, and just like Shanks did, was like, there's no way I've got room for a small child like you on my pirate ship.
Yeah, and while Shanks kind of let Luffy down easy with some teasing, Loki took it a step further and he said, fine, I'll prove myself, fight me. And that was not the greatest choice.
No, because he did fight him.
He didn't seem to hold back all that much. As you see the next panel, he's just sitting on the ground stabbed as we get full verification that this is Rock's Sabag.
Yeah, I mean, it already looked like how we've seen the silhouettes of Rocks in the past, but when he says explicitly, shut it, Newgate, of course I was going to fight him. That tells you all you need to know. It is clearly Whitebeard's former captain.
And rather than being inspired like Luffy was, he seems to only lament the fact that he was so weak at the time, saying, I was born in the wrong era, I wish I was stronger then because maybe it would have gone different. But as he's sitting there in his own thoughts, we cut away to Dory and Bragi, again surrounded by these nightmares, as they can only laugh at the ridiculousness of the drow and the ghosts and the goblins that are surrounding them everywhere.
Yeah, and they also note that one of these almost seems to resemble Loki. But before they can even fully react to this, Gaban just comes out of nowhere, cuts him right down. I got it, don't worry about it. And they kind of talk about, it's lucky that these monsters are only as dangerous as the imaginations of the children. So they do kind of get off with the fact that they aren't fully familiar with the full fighting powers of some of these monsters, including Loki.
Yeah, although Gaban calling out his shot and taking dibs on Loki, it does seem like he kind of has a bit of like a personal vendetta with him. So I'm wondering what their like direct history might be.
Yeah, because I mean he did give them the key ultimately to let him out. But yeah, it will be interesting to hear just how Loki feels about Gaban and vice versa when they ultimately come face to face.
However, Gabon again shows his expertise in these kinds of situations, and beyond looking at all these nightmares in front of him, he senses 3 more voices as well. Voices that can't be suppressed and that he can hear, but very much seem like nobody else can.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that we've talked about it when the God's Knights first were coming onto the island. They mentioned that they were trying to shield themselves, mask their presence.
She also does mention that they should hide their presence as they're leaving, which I think would allude to a very possible advancement in the haki tree being concealing your haki. That would explain how they snuck in past all these other great observation users.
Yeah, it could also explain how even when they were using this haki, how no one else sensed their presence while they were taking out the giants in the castle or anything like that, is they were able to shield it and kind of keep it under wraps. And so it seems that there is a sort of observation haki that Gabon is using to still be able to sense their presence despite them being far across the island, but also a type to like hide your haki and have it not be felt by others nearby.
So I feel like haki just keeps going up a level as we get deeper into the story. And I mean, if Gabon is Sanji's parallel, and Sanji's very well known for his observation haki specialty, that would make sense if there's like another level for him to learn.
Yeah, but he realizes just how grave this is, that if he's hearing these 3 voices, it truly does mean Elbaf has been infiltrated and is no longer safe, which he very gravely states means the world really might be ending.
I wonder if he's met the God's Knights before and like can sense the fact that they would be some of the only people that can do this, where they conceal their presence.
Yeah, because he has been around the world with the Roger Pirates, and even if he hasn't seen them directly, he knows of just the disgusting power of the world government.
But again, we have to leave that scene there as we jump to the inferno itself with the firefighting unit in full action, with these large streams of water shooting at the blaze, but really not seeming to do a whole lot to dampen it down.
Yeah, they're trying to use the water from the sea clouds, but they've already got their hoses at maximum power, and it just isn't enough. As Saul keeps trying to tell them, you guys need to put this out. The kids are getting closer and closer. And while they're starting to run out of options, we kind of zoom out and see Gunko and Summers just very casually watching as Summers asks her, hey, are the flames going to be enough to actually wake them from their trance?
And again, she demonstrates a very cold response in this way, where she exclaims that, yeah, they'll wake up from the heat, they'll be screaming in terror, and the flames will burn them down to the bone, which is exactly what Summers wanted to hear from her for once. He finally got the response he wanted out of Gunko.
Yeah, because like he said earlier, he thinks that's just a beautiful use of love, is that they'll die crying for their parents. But we then see that that's not going to be how it actually shakes out, as we see a figure within the sea clouds begin an attack. And I mean, Saul is watching as these kids are actually reaching the flames. The one in the front of the line's foot begins to enter it, but just as he does, we see a sea cloud current shoulder throw as a giant jet of water just goes flying over the giants and right onto the flames.
And we all know there's only one person that could shoulder throw that entire water. He did it like 2 arcs ago in Wano 2. Yeah. It's our boy Jinbei.
Yeah, and in true Jinbei fashion, is like, there we go, did I make it? And then just right out of there before anyone can even see that it was him to thank him.
Of course, Nami gives the right praise here, where she's like, that's Jinbei. Yeah. He's so reliable.
That's our Jinbei, as he like jumps back onto their boat, and you know, everyone's blown away by it. You see Colin just looking back and being like, wow, I can't believe that just happened. And then back with the giants, they're like, okay, the fire's out.
Yeah, well, that worked out really well, but it wasn't us.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I mean, they're still marching, so the full issue isn't taken care of, but they're at least out of imminent danger of death. But on the flip side, Robin and Chopper, who were nearby, they know better. They can recognize that was clearly Jinbei. He must be nearby.
I do appreciate that the Straw Hats are so familiar with one another at this point that they like can just see and know immediately, like, oh, that's Jinbei. Like, no, who else can do that?
Yeah, it had to have been. That's our guy. And even Chopper, he's like, you saw that, right? Like, it had to be. But we then cut back to our little drive-by saviors as, I mean, Colin's just reveling. You know, he already looked up to Luffy, but now he's seeing just how great all of his crew is. And I mean, it was cool. He just put out a giant forest fire in one throw.
Plus, he's appreciative. I mean, he talks about the fact that he might get picked on and he might not be popular, but those are still his friends to him.
Yeah, he doesn't want to see all his classmates die. And, you know, Nami tells him, like, it'll be okay. We're gonna save them all, and he's happy, you know? Great, the good guys are here, but that moment is very short-lived.
As, our first interaction between the God's Knights and another person that they haven't immediately stabbed or attacked occurs when Gunko, I don't even know if she like teleports or flies.
So I think she was watching them obviously from the hill and saw that Jinbei did this and then went into the water, follows him like with their eyes. I think she just like flew in because it kind of looks like her legs start to
unravel.
Yeah, unravel, and then she just whoosh over to them. So I don't think it was like a full teleport, but she basically just swoops in out of nowhere.
Yeah. And the first thing that catches her attention is the fact that, oh, not all the children were at the school. And this one is so lively.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that choice of words. And I mean, yes, they've got Jinbei, who's a very like experienced fighter. Brook with his sword. I don't know if this is the best group to be facing them first.
And we've already brought up before that Colin is not a child that really shies away from confrontation. He wants to be a warrior. He's got a warrior spirit. But the God's Knights are not the kind of characters you want to mess with in that regard.
Yeah, they just established for the 50,000th time that they do not value the life of these kids at all. And seeing one with this much energy who already is kind of established that he's kind of a rabble-rouser, like, he could be in some serious danger. He could end up being an example of just how cruel they are.
She might not be the sadistic one like Summers is, but she is cold-hearted.
Yeah, she's sadistic in a different way, in that she just doesn't seem to really have emotion.
Although, on a lighter note, with the character's presence, our idea for the ultimate panties joke between Brook and Gunko is very much on the table.
Yes, we could be seeing some real dark shit, but at the same time, it could also set us up for one of the funniest moments.
I mean, that's how One Piece is. It has some serious, dark, emotional moments that is cut by some of the funniest humor that you can see. And he is setting the chess pieces up for the ultimate play here.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait as it's a current break week. But in true One Piece fashion, as soon as they put out one fire, a new issue ignites. And we're just gonna have to wait to see what the fate of Colin and this group is before we see the first direct confrontation with the God's Knight.
Until then, be sure to drop a like on this video and let us know in the comments what you thought of the chapter and what you think is going to happen next. Will Loki reveal more about the Rock's pirates or Shanks? Will Scopper locate the God's Knights in time to save his son? And also, where the hell is Shamrock gone to? Is he all the way back in Marie's Wall already, missing all the fun?
Yeah, because we haven't seen him in a minute, and even Scopper only heard 3 voices, so like, what is he doing? Is he not there for his game that he was the one who created it?
They called him back, but I find it hard to believe he didn't want to have any fun.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you haven't already, subscribe to ensure you don't miss any of our upcoming One Piece discussions. And until next time,
be crew.